Hello everybody, welcome back to the Daily Kerbal. This monstrosity that you're looking at right now is the latest insanity that I have concocted here on the Daily Kerbal. This is the Osprey 5. It's my latest reusable rocket design. It has a large 19 clustered engine configuration, plus 8 landing engines. And the reason I built it is because I need something big and powerful to carry this enormous payload. It's a full space station. I'm sending it up in one big part instead of, bits like I should, because this one is headed for Eve. The next mission that we have, the next big exploration mission, is to land there, and I don't want to land on Eve unless I have a space station in orbit. So I accepted a contract. The folks at Stedler Engineering something corporation were kind enough to fund the bill for it. This is a 500,000 credit vessel, roughly, of which the Osprey rocket itself, I think, is about 2/3, maybe a bit less. And I have tested this. I have tested the launch, and I am up to the point where I think I can get out into orbit at the very least. And then once it's in orbit, I think all we have to do is just refuel it, and it will be set to head off and orbit Eve. This rocket is so powerful that at full thrust, it will destroy the launch pad. I'd rather not demonstrate that right now, but that's definitely something that can happen. So I have to start the engines at like 2/3 capacity, a bit higher. Anything more than that will force us to have to rebuild the entire launch pad. So once it's lifted off a bit, then I'm going to be able to give it full thrust and send it where it was going. But yeah, this is a really, really heavy rocket. Without further ado, I mean, what else can you say? Let's just fly it. Even that was too much. I'm trying to min-max this here. I'm trying to start us off with as much thrust as we can without destroying the launch pad. So let's go actually 2/3 there. I need to control our launch from here. There we go, and let's do it. That's safe. What you are hearing right now is the sound of 18 of these smaller sized thrusters and a single mainsail in a clustered engine configuration, generating probably more thrust than any rocket I have ever built so far. And I remain confident that we can bring this spaceship back. The rocket, I mean. Okay, we're in a bit of a tilt so far. But our heading is looking good. Starting the gravity turn. Baby's loud, isn't it? Okay, we can afford to start burning less fuel here. And basically my objective with this rocket, this rocket here, is just to get it up to an apoapsis higher than the atmosphere. About 700 meters per second is the speed that we want to hit minimum, and then see how much faster we can go. Okay, 50,000 meters. Still looking good. 60. 350 meters per second delta V left. We have achieved the height that we were looking for. So I'm going to continue to decrease the thrust and, you know, try to get a hold of this wobble before it destroys the ship. Anyway, we're almost out of fuel here in the descent rocket stage. There we go. That's it. Now, I think I'm just gonna blast it off right now. There we go. RCS this to retrograde as the station heads off, and then we'll return to you in a bit. Oh crap! Yeah, this happened to be the last time I did this. Let's just deploy this, regain control, take control from the... There we go. We want to set us to prograde. It's probably because of, yeah, I imagine it flipped over because I set the RCS to retrograde there, but it's fine. As long as we don't fall below 900 meters per second before we reach our apoapsis, I'll be happy. We're definitely going to be able to get into orbit. The thing is that I think that once this station gets into orbit, I don't think it's going to have enough fuel to make the rest of its trip. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we launch this vessel and put it into orbit for now, land the rocket, and just call it a day. Then the next thing we're going to do is, because since the gateway station needs a refueling anyway, I think we're gonna launch one. Maybe I'm gonna build and launch a couple of fuel tankers, and at least one of those is going to be carrying fuel to this. And then we can fuel it up, and then it should have all the delta V it needs to get to its goal. It's about where's my cheat sheet? It's about 1,500 meters per second delta V is required, I think, to orbit Eve at the height that we want. And then from low orbit, from low orbit of Kerbin, it'll take us another 1,000 or so delta V to get to Eve in the first place. So 1,500, 2,500, yeah. 2,500, a bit less, is the delta V that we need to get there, and I think it has enough. I think my ship has about, it's got at least 2,000 of it, so if nothing else, we can orbit Eve at a, you know, we can get into high orbit above Eve, which is still better than no orbit. And then once there, you know, we can still carry vessels that travel out there are obviously going to have some fuel left over. So yeah, that's what we're going to try to do today. And now let's just get this out into orbit and land the rocket. How far up is the rocket right now? All right, it's tumbling down. And we better get into orbit before that thing starts to burn up. I don't think we're going to be able to switch back to it if it enters the atmosphere. So let's hurry with this. Come on, almost there. Just get us up above 70. 70, there we go. Okay. Switch just in time. Just barely in time. Okay. So, RCS to retrograde. Do it fast. Let's activate the reserve fuel. Look at that thing. Look at it. Largest freaking rocket I ever built. Saturn V, eat your heart out. Okay, now we're going to be using the ascent thrusters to slow us down, because I think those are the only engines that can generate the thrust that we need. And then once the parachutes have been fully deployed, I will switch to the landing engines, try to bring us down nice and slow. Don't foresee this happening very easily. I assume we're going to lose most of the rocket, because I have not yet been able to land this one without that happening. Like I said, I already tested this once. I went all the way up to the landing once just to see if I could get the station into orbit, because that's what matters. I mean, we're not broke just yet, but... Okay, so there's the burn. I'm going to try and use the engines to control this. We'll see how well this works. close to landing it on the barge last time. Right? I'm going to try to slow it down to parachute speed. Come on. Come on. Alright, there we go. Come on. Deploy, deploy, deploy! Alright, okay, so we have full deployment. Look at all those chutes. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, these thrusters are pretty good at slowing us down, so we're going to use them. I got to be very careful with this. Recover it, recover it, recover it. Don't let it tip. Yes, yes! Ugh. Can't have the thrill out there that I have over here. So that went well. I think I need, this is something I gotta do. You may probably didn't notice this, but before I actually finished the landing, I flipped the switch for my auto guidance unit from retrograde to just wherever it was pointing. In my previous experience, I think what happens when you land the rocket on water, if you use you keep the thruster's gimbal turned on, then it will kind of sway the bottom of the rocket, and that's what usually causes the bottom parts of it to start swinging around. And then when it falls into the water, there's friction and it starts to tumble, and then that sometimes it'll work out well. Sometimes, you know, the fall as the rocket tips over, the parachutes will remain open, and then they will kind of gently lay the rocket down on the water. Most of the times, though, that's not what happens at all. Most of the times what happens is that it slides off from underneath you, and what's on the bottom blows up. And then from the fall, what's on the top blows up, and then you're usually left with like the top couple of fuel containers. Now, the question is, how much money did we get back from this? 500,000 funds recovered from the parts that we got at 90% value. That is excellent. Absolutely excellent. This is what's going to keep my space program funded. My ability to build rockets like that. And obviously, look at the Kerbal Navy is going to have to, you know, start working on methods of recovering a rocket that size from, you know, splashdown on the water. But hey, that's their problem, not mine, luckily. We got most of our money back, and the station is still out there, floating around. So let's take a quick peek at it. There's one thing that I forgot to check just before I did this. Oh, it is actually yeah, it's a probe, isn't it? Okay. We need. It's marked as a surface base. The reason for that is because the contract required me to have a very specific fuel converter. The fuel converter type that is required for bases that you land on planets. It's one of those planetary expansion mod parts that requires me to take with it. So anyway, here it is. Station equipped with all the parts it needs to fly. All the parts except RCS fuel, obviously. And then it's got solar panels, and it's got a heat system, heat ventilation system to get the converter working. And so with the fuel that it has left, we have a total of 650 meters per second of delta V. That's not even enough to get us out of orbit of Kerbin, I don't think, at this height. But yeah. Okay, this is not right. Jeb, what are you doing here? Did I sent Jeb up, didn't? Oh my goodness. Oh well, I guess Jeb's going to Eve. It's not what I intended to do. We need 2 scientists on the station. This is what I wanted to do here. Just check the conditions. And yes, everything. I do not. Excuse me. What are you talking? Oh yes, forgive me. I have to deploy this. There we go. Now this should be ticked off. There we go. Okay. So the science facility has been made available. And so now literally all we have to do is put this station out into orbit of Eve. The way to do that, I think, is going to be multiple refueling trips. We have to fill this up, because I think it needs all of its fuel to be able to get where it's going. Is it not been... It has. Okay, it has been using this fuel. It's because I do have cross-feed enabled, at least I think I do. Just out of curiosity, can this... It can, okay. Crossfeed does exist. Alright, so I'm actually just going to call it an episode here. This is going to be a very short one, but I think we need some of those every now and then. You got to see a launch, you got to see a successful landing, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be sending this thing to Eve after I figure out how to refuel this. And that's probably going to be the next episode. I'm going to build a refueling ship, and I'm going to perform several refueling launches, one to the Eve orbital station that we're going to send out, and the rest to the Kerbin station. The Kerbin Gateway station, which is also out here in orbit. But anyway, that's going to do it for me today. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this little escapade, and I will see you on the next Daily Kerbal. Bye-bye.